Hi, friends. It's Angela, Wild Violets Art. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. It's my Marvelous Monday that I do every Monday, and it helps make Monday marvelous. Otherwise, it's just a work day. I still have to work. So today I'm going to be playing with the Sweetly Scripted stamp set. It's a new online exclusive stamp set that is reminiscent of an old one that I used to play with all the time, that Stampin' Up! Retired years ago when it was on wooden blocks and rubber and you couldn't see through your block. And if you didn't line things up properly, it kind of went sideways for you, literally. But now, obviously, we have all this new um, way of doing things, and I love my clear blocks. But this Sweetly Scripted is wonderful. It's got great sentiments, and just I love how they're laid out with that long curly cue. And then I haven't played with the soft pastels yet. Stampin' Up! Has had them now for a couple of years, and they changed their colors, so I had to change my pastel set, but I finally decided I needed to use it. Stampin' Up! Inspired me with one of their ideas, and that's using an embossing folder and creating a beautiful stamp set or a beautiful card from that. So let's play. All right. So this is the card. I'm part of a swap, and it's a little offshoot from the Stampin' Share for Leaders. So it's just a group outside of that. And it was a technique card. And so I could use watercoloring. I could use, pastels. I could use watercoloring pencils. I could use a bunch of different things that I wasn't really interested in making 21 of something with a really hard technique. So I decided to use pastels. And I did 21 of these, actually 19. I'm going to work with 2 of them tonight, but I did 21, almost 21 of them in just one day, and that was pretty much Saturday. And I did have a little bit extra that I had to do on Sunday afternoon, but it's a really beautiful card. So I'll show you how I did that. And as you can tell, I'm using the the Xenia 3D embossing folder, but I'm not using the upside, I'm using the backside. So I just think it turned out really great. All right. Now another embossing folder that I played with just to get an idea of which one I wanted to use is Painted Posies embossing folder. Now this one is sticking up. And as you can tell, the colors are a lot more brilliant than they are on here. So let me just show you how I did this. All right, so we're going to use the Simply Xenia set, but I'm going to show you a couple different options. Okay, so the Sweetly Scripted stamp set, this is just all the little sentiments. Happy anniversary, congratulations, happy birthday, a million thanks, speedy recovery, and save the date. And as you can tell, all of these fit really nicely going all the way across, or if you had a card going up and down, you could have it go sideways up and down. So I think that's a great idea as well. But I love how long it is. It's just so pretty, and these little curly cues at the end are just really lovely. So, okay, so we're using Speedy Recovery. But for this one, I used Happy Anniversary. So it's just a really popping card, and I'll show you a little bit about that. Okay, so these are the card components, and I'm using the Trio Baker's Twine combo, and I just made one of my little triple bows. And of course, when I'm doing things in production, then I am attaching them to my glue dot tape and just adding it as I go. So this one I've done most of the way, but let me just show you real quick. All right. So these are both the same embossed paper, but one is the back side of the embossing folder, and this one is the front side of the embossing folder. Now, what's front, what's back is up to you, but this has raised areas that define the different elements. This is just the opposite. The elements are raised and the defining lines are sunk in. I don't know if that makes sense to you at all. So to create this, I used blending pens. Now the blending pens don't get mentioned very often because there's so many fun tools, but they're just wet little pens that allow you to actually blend color. Now you can use a stamp ink, or you can wet your watercolor. Like you have a watercolor image, you used maybe watercolor pencils, you can wet it and get a watercolor effect. But it also works great for these soft pastels. Now I'm using the silicone mat that Stampin' Up! Sells, and you can do it a couple different ways. So this was my background color. So I can actually just, you can see how it gets the pastels wet, and I can do it that way to try to color up my my cardstock. Or you can take the pen or the chalk out, or the pastel, and you can just mark a spot and then pick up the color that way. Now the more you pick up, the darker it's going to be, and then as you continue to move, it will get lighter and lighter. So as I move away from where I first started, or if I roll my blender pen, there may be more of the pastel ink on another side. Okay, so and I wanted this to be a little lighter, but in order to get some of the effects, I needed to, instead of coloring this over here, I went and just colored areas real lightly with the pastel, and then I came back and rubbed the color across. Now you can see it just does a really light color across the petals. Sometimes if you get it in the wrong place, like I just got it on the leaves, you can actually erase the color off, but you want to make sure that you're not rubbing on the fresh pastel area, because you want to make sure that you get that blended in first. So you can see it just makes for a really nice soft look. Now, if you want it to be a little brighter, you can actually, and I'm going to use the back of this because this is my sample, is I can color this with a lot more of the pastel and get a lot heavier, and then I'm going to get a much heavier color. So you can see that the more pastel you use, the brighter color you're going to have. So same thing with the yellow. I've torn a lot of it off and I don't want it to smear. So the yellow is even really, really bright. Whereas on this one, there's not much yellow at all. It's just a lot lighter. And that's how I wanted it. I wanted it to be kind of pale and soft. And this one's a lot darker. Same thing with the green. This broke in transit, so I can do a lot darker. Or like with the other, let me find the cap. These do dry out, so, and I think there's ways online that if you pay attention, you can figure out a way to get them to be wet again. There was an area I noticed that I missed. There it is. So you can see that it's really light over here, but I used a lot more chalk directly on the paper to get a really bright look. So you can get it as dark or as light as you want. And you can use other colors as well. But I wanted to show you there's a different way of doing it than that. So this way, again, you're using a lot more. And this is the other side of the, I'm using a bunch of pens because I don't want the colors to smear, but what you'll find is after you use it for a little bit, in fact, I'll use it on the back of this. So you can use your chamois to get some of the color off. And then after a while, you'll find that there's no color left. So it can be changed to another color if you don't have a bunch of them. So let me put the pen back on, the cap on that. Okay, so this one, is this the one I was using? I think this one's a clean one. So this is the other side of this same embossing folder. And of course, I'm using the red. And I'm not sure if this is Poppy Parade. And I'm coloring it in little circular motions because I want the petals to be filled with the color. And then if it got somewhere where you didn't want it, you can always erase it off. So I'm just going to keep wiping it until I get the color all the way off. Okay, and then I can make really dark in the middles as well. So you can see there's quite a bit of difference, a lot brighter. And using the same side, you know, it still can be a lot darker and richer colors. Okay, so that's kind of an idea of how I should probably clean this off. How I colored it. And yeah, it's a lot of work, but I had a lot of fun doing all of the background and after I had done all the coloring. So I used the Flirty Flamingo, I used the Coastal Cabana for the background, and I used this Granny Apple Green for my leaves. I didn't use this one. And then I used the Daffodil Delight for my flower centers. So the reason I'm doing the Coastal Cabana for the background, because I think it just makes the little flowers pop. I'll color more of this later. Okay, so to put this together, I have an A2 card, which is, let's get rid of all the chalk from my work area so I don't get chalk all over my card. Okay, so which is the 8.5 by 5.25, or sorry, 4.25. 5.5 by 8.5. There we go. Scored at 4.25. I can get this right. And then I used a layer of Flirty Flamingo. And this one is, let me just get my little scale out real quick. This one is 4 7/8 by 3 5/8. Now, I think I've told you this before, but when I use a lot of layers and I'm doing 20 or 40 or whatever my swap is, I will use these dimensions because I can get 5 pieces of colored cardstock out of one 8.5 by 11. And so you can get, if you cut your dimension on the right hand side, the biggest you can get it, where it works the other way as well, is I can do 3 5/8 wide and cut that from the top to bottom. So along, let me get a sheet. So if I've got an 8.5 by 11, you can cut like 3.5 or 3 5/8, and that's the biggest you can do. And then after the 3 5/8, you'll have 4 7/8. And then that's my Flirty Flamingo layer. And then for the next layer, I'm doing 3.5, and then I'm cutting here 4 3/4. And that's my Coastal Cabana layer. Sorry, I have a kitty. She has decided she wants to explore. My apologies. I usually shut my door and I forgot today. Okay, and then I just glued this layer on as well, and I'll have to finish my coloring before I can finish it. And then I took a 1/2 inch by 5.5 inch piece of cardstock, and let's use the Coastal Cabana stamp pad. So with this one, I'm going to have to stamp across and back. Let me get this out of the way. And then I straighten it up. It only has to be 1/2 an inch tall, and it works perfectly. All right. A little chamois. I love this glass mat studio. And then I just glued it onto a 3/8 by 5.5 inch piece of cardstock. And then I'm going to add one of my bows, and this is one of those 6 loop bows that I showed you how to do. And as a reminder, I have a YouTube video that is called Bows, 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 and it shows how to do all these different bows. Back up, young lady. Thank you. Yep, step in my chalk. Good idea. And then put it on my cardstock. Oh my goodness. Anyway, and then I popped it up with dimensionals, and then I added, so the Glossy Dots Assortment, I had to use 2 packages of it, has a Coastal Cabana, and it's just a really pretty little iridescent jewel. It's got a lot of pretty iridescence to it, even though, you know, it's not like, it doesn't have shimmery or anything, but it just kind of has this really beautiful iridescent tone to it. So, and then for this one right here, the Poppy Parade, I did the same thing, but I used a layer of, oh my goodness, crumb cake. And then I did a layer of the Orchid Oasis. And then I used, I'm not sure if this is Orchid Oasis or if this is blue, but I just thought it looked a lot like the Orchid Oasis. And I used that on the lavender, and then I used the Flirty Flamingo on the little flowers, and then used Happy Anniversary and used this polka dot card ribbon. So it just ended up being really pretty, and a little bit of green for the stems. And then I used the in color gems just because it was really great. And then I had the piece that was a little bit too big, and so I just cut it off and stuck it on the inside. So it made for a really beautiful card. All right, Emmy, down. Thank you. So I'll just finish coloring this as we chat. And if you have any questions, just be sure to add it, and I can help you with it. But you can see that just adding a little bit to my silicone mat, and I'll just have to disregard the kitty hair. Thank you, Emmy. It's just a fun way to color, and you know, you can get a real light, soft feel to it. And or you can get something really vibrant, whatever you want. This reminds me a little bit of the blending brushes, because you don't always get an even color across everything that you're doing. It just depends on how much of this soft pastels are on your blender pen. Okay, so now I can add my flower or my bow. And then I'm going to line up my card with one of these lines. And then I can place my glue dots so they line up. And I have just enough of these for my swap. I just have the 2 remaining. Now I think there is like if you work with pastels a lot, I think there is a spray-on shellac. It's like it's a matte finish. And you can spray it on any of your pastel work, because I think that there's a tendency for it to lift just a little bit, especially if you're doing heavy colors. Just to give you an idea. Like this one definitely leaves a residual on my finger. And so there's a way to spray a clear matte finish that just kind of stabilizes everything, keeps it in place, so you don't have to worry about messing up your envelopes or any of your other artwork, or your recipients open it and they have messy hands, so that kind of a thing. Okay, so before I let you go today, I just wanted to show you what I'm going to be working with for my next class. And this will be in April. I'm going to use the Meandering Meadow Sweet Collection, which includes the Garden Meadow stamps and dies. It includes the adhesive back dragonflies and birds, the really pretty brass. And then it's got this gorgeous paper, which shockingly enough, I haven't even opened it up. I got to play with this during backstage, and it gave me an opportunity to do a couple cards. But both sides of this paper is just beautiful. I mean, look at the scenery. Just really beautiful. I have to tell you, though, I will be using the scenery much more than I'll be using the back side of this. I mean, these are great, but I just love the scenes. This looks like it's a mix of watercolor or maybe actually pastels. Actually, this looks like it's pastels. It's just beautiful. Really gorgeous. And the thing that is so amazing is it coordinates with the paper pumpkin that I just got in the mail yesterday. So I don't usually open it up. See, this is so pretty. Both sides. It's just really, really stunning. I don't usually open up my paper pumpkin, and I'll be playing with this on Friday. So I hope you'll join me then. But I snuck a peek because it's just so beautiful. I mean, take a look at that. Isn't that gorgeous? So I'm going to play with this. I'll make actually a scrapbook spread out of it too because it's so beautiful. And I didn't think my paper pumpkin would come this early, so I was super excited. I'd never get it this early. I usually don't get it until the 20th. And this is their anniversary gift, their paper pumpkin. And so they gave us a free set of stamps to go with the typical paper pumpkin stamp set. So I was really excited about that. So we'll play with this on Friday in my Friday Kit Together. And then I'll be working on samples with this beautiful set. I don't know why it took me so long, but hey, you know, it's spring. Now's the time to be getting into my gardening thoughts. And so I love the little rain boots and watering can and the little garden gate. It's just beautiful. And then there's these dies that have garden gates and grass and shrubbery, and dies that cut out all the cute stuff that's on here. So that looks like a pretty arch. So very beautiful. So look for that. And if you're watching this on YouTube, again, my name is Angela, and I'm with Wild Violets Art. And thank you for joining me for my Marvelous Monday, and hope you enjoyed the sweetly scripted stamp set. So have a great evening, and we'll talk soon.